They said it would change trucking forever. A bold new machine. No def, no nonsense. A truck made for the working man. But behind the chrome and promises was a lie. A decision so catastrophic it destroyed businesses, bankrupted families, and drove thousands out of the industry. Even today, veterans whisper, "Whatever you do, don't buy the ProStar." And here's the chilling part. Most didn't know until it was too late. This isn't just about a bad truck. It's about real people who lost everything because of it. Owner-operators who poured their life savings into what they thought was their future, only to end up with engines that failed within months, repairs they couldn't afford, loans they couldn't pay, and dreams they couldn't save. All because one company decided to gamble, not just with technology, but with human lives. So what really happened? How did a trusted brand unleash a ticking time bomb onto America's roads? And why did no one stop them? Stay with us, because once you hear this story, you'll never look at trucking the same way again. And if you're thinking of buying used, you'd better watch this first. Some of those trucks are still out there, still on the lot, still waiting for someone like you. Chapter 2. The Engineering Bluff. How one engine broke thousands of trucks. While the brochures were still warm from the printer and executives toasted to record pre-orders, a different story was unfolding behind the scenes. Navistar had made a gamble, not on the truck's design, not on its ride quality, but on its heart, the engine. Most manufacturers, facing new EPA 2010 emissions regulations, turned to SCR, selective catalytic reduction. It worked. It was tested. It required diesel exhaust fluid, yes, but it was reliable. Navistar said no. They weren't like everyone else. Instead, they bet the company on an unproven system, EGR, exhaust gas recirculation. No DEF, no extra tanks, just recirculated exhaust. Cleaner on paper, simpler to operate, but deadly in practice. The result? The Max Force engine. It was rushed, pushed through design under brutal corporate pressure. Real-world testing? Limited. Long-term durability? Unknown. But the truck shipped anyway. And then, the reports started flooding in. Overheating, coolant leaks, blown head gaskets, cracked pistons, oil mixing with fuel, after-treatment systems failing just weeks after delivery. Some trucks didn't even make it 10,000 miles before breaking down. Dealerships couldn't keep up. Mechanics were baffled. Parts were backordered for months. Owner-operators were stuck, making payments on trucks they couldn't drive, paying out of pocket for breakdowns that warranty wouldn't always cover. One mechanic from Ohio put it simply, it wasn't just a bad engine, it was a trap. The technology had failed, but the damage had only just begun, because the deeper betrayal wasn't mechanical, it was personal. They're still for sale, still breaking down, still ruining lives. Chapter 3. Broken cab dreams. Real stories, real losses. For many, it started with hope, a new truck, a fresh contract, the chance to build something, a business, a future, a legacy. But behind the wheel of the ProStar, that dream would stall before it ever reached its destination. Meet Carlos Vega, an owner-operator from El Paso. He poured $118,000 into his 2011 ProStar with a Max Force engine. 6 months in, the check engine light wouldn't turn off. Then came the breakdowns. Radiator blew, EGR cooler failed, oil in the coolant, his savings gone, credit maxed. The final blow? Repossession. I didn't buy a lemon, I bought a time bomb, Carlos says. Then there's Patricia and Ron Lewis, a husband and wife team from Indiana. They ran a small fleet, 7 ProStars bought between 2010 and 2012. They believed in the brand. They trusted the sales pitch. In less than 2 years, they were forced to lay off their last 2 drivers and close shop. It wasn't a breakdown, Patricia said. It was a domino collapse, one truck after another. Forums became group therapy sessions. Hundreds of drivers across the U.S. shared the same story. Trucks in and out of the shop, thousands in unreimbursed repairs, lost contracts, family stress, mental breakdowns. Some left the industry altogether. Others took second jobs, just to survive. And through it all, one name kept coming up: Max Force. This wasn't just poor engineering, it was widespread human collateral. And for many, it wasn't just a truck that died, it was a way of life. And guess what? Those same rigs are back on the lot, cheaper than ever. Chapter 4. Who knew and stayed silent? Cover-up or collapse? By the time the breakdowns became headlines, the truth had already leaked, but no one wanted to hear it. Inside Navistar, engineers raised red flags. Internal emails, later revealed in court, showed serious doubts, cooling system issues, after-treatment failures, a lack of real-world testing. But pressure from above was clear. Ship it anyway. In public, Navistar insisted the MaxxForce engine was a clean sheet design for a new era. Behind closed doors, they knew it wasn't ready. Meanwhile, dealers kept selling, fleet managers kept buying, and owner-operators kept signing contracts on trucks destined for failure. Navistar's gamble was simple: push EGR hard enough, and maybe the EPA would cave. Maybe the problems would get patched in time. Maybe the drivers would just deal with it. But they didn't. By 2012, lawsuits flooded in. By 2014, the damage was undeniable. Navistar's market share collapsed. And in 2021, the company was sold off, the final act of a corporate retreat. Yet through it all, no one was held personally responsible. No public apology, no criminal charges, just a quiet payout here, and silence. They knew. They sold it anyway, and thousands of drivers paid the price. Those trucks are still out there, still sold as is, still destroying wallets. Chapter 5. The Perfect Storm: Lawsuits, Layoffs, and Collapse. By 2012, the silence cracked. Drivers had had enough. The forums turned into war zones, not about mods or routes, but about one name: MaxxForce. And then came the lawsuits. Thousands of owner-operators and small fleets filed claims, alleging fraud, deception, engineering malpractice. Stories flooded into courtrooms, families losing homes, credit ruined, businesses dead on arrival. One class action suit revealed internal documents showing Navistar knew about the engine's failures before full release. But the trucks still rolled out, still financed, still under warranty, a warranty that often refused to pay. Meanwhile, repair shops were overwhelmed. Some trucks sat idle for months waiting on back-ordered parts. Fleets lost contracts. Dealerships lost trust. And drivers lost everything. In a last-ditch effort, Navistar tried to patch the damage, extended some warranties, released software updates. Nothing worked. The design was flawed at its core. Shareholders revolted. Leadership changed. And by 2014, the writing was on the wall. MaxxForce was a failed experiment. Navistar's stock collapsed. Layoffs swept through engineering departments. The brand was bleeding. And in 2021, it all came to an end. Volkswagen Group bought Navistar in a $3.7 billion acquisition, absorbing the wreckage and sweeping away the last remnants of the MaxxForce era. But even after the buyout, the trucks remained, parked in lots, lurking on classifieds, waiting for the next driver who doesn't know better. They're still out there, and they still look like a deal. Chapter 6. What's left behind? Life after MaxxForce. Today, the dust has settled. The lawsuits are mostly over. The headlines have faded, but for the people who lived through it, the scars are still fresh. Some drivers never came back, not because they didn't love the road, but because the road broke them. Carlos Vega? He now works construction in West Texas, still paying off a truck he hasn't seen in 6 years. Patricia and Ron? They rent out their old dispatch office as storage space. They haven't talked about trucks in a long time. And thousands more like them, swallowed by a promise that never delivered. Forums are quieter now. The Facebook groups are gone, but every once in a while a post shows up. Hey, thinking of buying a 2012 ProStar? Good deal? And the veterans respond in unison. Run. The physical trucks, still roaming auction lots, still dressed in chrome, still luring in the next buyer with a price too good to be true. But the emotional damage, that's the part no one lists in the ad. Because it wasn't just about engines and emissions. It was about trust, about families, about people who did everything right and still got crushed. The trucks are still for sale, but the people who drove them, they're gone. Final chapter. The cost of progress. What this story really means. In the trucking world, progress is everything. More torque, better fuel economy, cleaner emissions. Every year, someone promises the next big thing, and every year, drivers trust that promise because they have to. But the story of the ProStar and the MaxxForce engine is a warning. Not all progress is real, and not every promise is worth the risk. This wasn't just a bad product. It was a failure of responsibility, a gamble taken at the expense of the very people who keep this country moving. It's easy to forget that behind every chrome grille is a family, a mortgage, a dream, a life on the line. Navistar paid the financial price, but drivers, they paid with everything else. Today, technology keeps moving forward. New engines, new systems, new emissions rules, and that's fine, as long as we remember the past. Because when things go wrong in this industry, they don't just go wrong on paper. They go wrong on pavement, in real lives, with real consequences. So the next time someone says, "Trust us, this one's different," remember the name that changed everything, MaxxForce, and ask twice before signing the dotted line.